Well, hello. I'm Lexi, and this is the Prodigal's Purpose podcast. Today, we're going to be discussing a topic that is very near and dear to my heart, and it is mental health. Specifically, I want to talk about depression. I have had quite a bumpy and weird journey when it comes to depression in my own life. And so I am not a medical expert. I also am the first one that will tell you that depression impacts people in such different ways and stages. So there's not like a right way to have depression or a wrong way. It just looks so different, and people learn to find ways of handling it in their own way. And one thing that I wish was more discussed or more shared was how to approach mental health with God. And so today I just want to share some of the things I've learned or my experiences or ways in which I combat depression or cope with depression. And so again, I'm only speaking for myself and my own journey. If you hear my experience and you're like, Lexi, that's not how it is for me. Trust me, girl, I know. Like, I am not on some pedestal or some soapbox telling you this is how it is for every single human. And if you don't experience it this way, you're doing it wrong. Nobody can do depression wrong. That just sounds stupid. I want to share with you things that have been helpful and fruitful for me, and practices and ways in which I didn't isolate, or I did, but eventually I learned to not isolate and try to control and fix and cope with depression solely by myself, but also allowing my faith to be a tool that could help nurture and grow and, eventually lessen the hardships of depression. It's almost like this is a cross that I carry. This is a cross that I've encountered that I think a lot of people can relate to and encounter. And there have been ways from friends, from therapists, from professionals, from common knowledge of just things like, wow, like that really worked for me, that have helped me allow Christ to walk this journey with me and to help carry this cross. And so I thought I'd share with you just some of my tips and tricks when I am in an episode or in a time of struggle. Okay? So I was such a tryhard. I even jotted down some notes. It's just more like nowadays, it's become so much a part of my life that I don't need like a cheat sheet or a book or something, but I decided to write it down, and I have like quite the list. So first, I want to just talk about the physical practices. So if you have already heard this, no duh, but these have really helped me when I'm struggling. First off, natural light. That is huge. Forcing myself to go outside in some kind of fashion is monumental. There is just something different. Being outside, being in creation, having the sun hit you in the face, it just makes you come alive. And I think it's also can be like a really nice distraction and kind of like a sensory distraction too. And sometimes people like to work out outside or go for a walk. I love going for a walk. But on the really, really hard days, I literally would just get my butt outside and sit in a chair for a couple minutes and just be outside. So natural light is a really big one. This one sounds common knowledge and stupid, but drinking more water and eating more whole foods. I think we live in a world that is way more conscious and aware of how food affects us. But growing up, when I was younger and in my teenage phases, I don't think we had that knowledge yet, like the kids today. And I think what we fuel ourselves with can really impact our mood and just kind of our mental state. If I am eating Cane's every single day, which sounds lovely, who doesn't like chicken tendies? I feel so blah. And if I physically feel blah, then mentally it's just going to go hand in hand, especially on a harder day. And then I'm just going to sit there and rot and not only mentally feel gross, but like physically feel terrible. And so that can be it sounds so simple, but that can really be a big impact. The other thing that I've noticed is movement, whether it's gym, walking, something, you have to get up. Like you have to get up. And that's a lot easier said than done for a lot of people. So maybe you can invite somebody or have somebody do this with you, because sometimes going alone isn't scary. I think just the chemicals that get released when we do work out, or feeling like, wow, like I accomplished something today. I just think that that impacts us a lot more than we realize. There's such great benefits to that. Okay, this one's real. Get off the screens. And I'm saying this more to myself than to you. Getting off the stinking screens, doom scrolling, and just watching 5 seasons in one day, which I'm a pro at. I know I'm saying this in such a hypocritical way, but it's not from hypocrisy. It's from during my bouts of like my longest strings of like serious, I'm not getting out of bed, I'm not moving, depression. My screen was my excuse to stay in that lane. It made me stay in my room and keep the lights off and just lay in bed like for stupid amounts of hours. And so even if you're like, no, Lexi, like I literally can't deal with the silence right now, I literally can't deal with whatever, even if you just like turn on like your favorite playlist or some music and just put your phone away and you're not looking at it, it's kind of scary how much of an impact the scrolling can be. And then also with social media, sometimes if you really are in a place of like struggling, or maybe you're feeling insecure, or you keep comparing yourself to others, social media is the last thing we need to be looking at, people. And again, I say all of this as like, I'm just talking to myself right now because I know the struggle is real. And the reason I know the struggle is real is because I've struggled in it, you know? So the doom scrolling or limiting the screen time or something, it can really, really impact you. There was one Lent I gave up like all screens. I have never been happier. And I need to do that again. That's like, honestly, every time I think of that phase, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, that sucked. It was, wow, I missed that and I want to do that again. So think about it. Just think about it. But you might be surprised with how big of an impact it has on you. Sleep is huge. Depression, it kind of hits you differently. But if you're like, I would kind of be in a mess when I'd have really bad episodes where either I like wouldn't sleep at all, in the sense of I would be on my phone or be watching TV crazy hours. And then there was some other phases of my life where I would nap 3 to 4 times a day, and then I would sleep crazy into the next day. Like I was almost like a little sleeping beauty, like putting myself in a coma. I was just in such a low mental state that sleep was an escape for me. And so it's kind of a combination of, depending on what you're needing. And that when I was in that phase of like Sleeping Beauty, Snow White coma sitch, I think I would have benefited from going outside and from like walking and finding some activity. And then there's others times where I was just so mentally exhausted that I made myself physically exhausted, that I think the biggest importance is like a good sleep routine. It's good to have like the correct amount of hours, like what is it, like 8 to 10? I'm not a doctor. I don't know. Something better than like 4. But I also think, too, having a routine of like, okay, 10 o'clock, off the phone, in bed, closing my eyes. Like, I think getting our body in a routine can also be very healing. Okay, this is funny. Whenever I was like having a meltdown and really, really struggling, taking a shower, I don't do baths. You're just sitting in dirt water. Like, it's like you're sitting in a teacup brewing of your own filth. Like, I just don't get baths. Baby bubble baths are cute. Like, I get the phase, but I'm just not a bath person. And then it gets cold really fast. Okay, tangent. Focus. Either way, I don't like baths, but I love showers. And so something that would always get me in a better mood or just like kind of clear me out is I would do a karaoke shower. And like literally quote my family, I would take all the hot water and I would sing like I was Beyonce and put on my best performance in the shower. Again, I think it's a sensory thing. You also feel clean, because sometimes when people are struggling with depression, like getting out of bed to bathe yourself or take care of yourself is hard. But like when you feel clean and feel taken care of, you feel good. And then for myself, music is so therapeutic for me that I would just like jam out, have a concert in there. Karaoke showers are powerful. So that was really helpful to me. Another thing too is I'm very much like an all or nothing girly. And it's it can be a really good but also really, really bad thing about me. But when I was an all or nothing girly, to-do lists were either super helpful or super harmful. And so when I say to make a to-do list, on those hard days when I like could not move, could not get out, had no purpose, I felt like itemizing everything and checking it off felt like there was progression and there was accomplishment done, even if the check mark was shower, brush teeth, make bed, and just seeing like, I didn't just do nothing today. Like, I'm doing something. I'm trying to be the best version of myself. I'm trying to progress throughout my day. I think it's important to give yourself credit. There also were times where I would make a to-do list and I would make it impossible for myself. It'd be like, get my dream job, find the perfect man, lose 1,000 pounds, where like, it just overwhelms me and makes me spiral more. So don't be stupid, Lexi. Be like normal, smart Lexi, and itemize it as much as you need. If you feel like you have no purpose, what's the point? Maybe breaking it down and itemizing it a little bit more. If you just need a little direction, you can kind of summarize it of like, get ready for the day and spend 2 hours working on classwork. It doesn't even mean that you have to like completely check mark it, but you can phrase it in ways that you feel like you did something. So I like, instead of saying read the entire Gospel of John, maybe I just say spend time reading scripture and keep it a little open-ended. And that way, you know what, if I read 2 verses or if I read 2 chapters, I did something. Be more understanding and kind and flexible with yourself. But there is something so powerful about being productive and doing something. So that's kind of like the physical practices that, especially like sensory wise and like my body wise, would be super helpful. Kind of going with that, I would next say the mental practices. So more like mental health therapy energy. Number 1 is therapy. Cannot speak how highly I recommend therapy to everybody. And I think maybe I'll make an episode and go in depth of my therapy experience. But I have grown so much as a person and healed so much as a broken human, and truly taken large strides to be the best version of myself and the happiest version of myself because of therapy. I think if you're curious, if you're like on the edge, this is the sign, like go for it and try it out. And if that sparks some people's curiosity, I'd love to get more in depth with it, but I would talk for like 10 years about my therapy experience, and we don't have enough time for today. Another thing too is practicing gratitude. I know this is a very, very popular kind of like trend going on right now, but what I've liked to do is at the end of the night, or even in adoration during prayer, list at least 3 things you're thankful for today. Even if it's the worst day of your life, you can think of 3 things. And I'm not kidding. There have been days where I was like, oh my goodness, like I did this super fun thing with this friend, and then I did such a good job at my job, and then I had this amazing workout. Like you feel like over the moon, like hit the lotto kind of days. But even on the crazy, poopiest, worst, low life, I'm gonna have to crawl out of bed tomorrow, I wanna go to sleep and not wake up, kind of like hard days, I can still think of 3 things, and so can you. I'm not kidding. On those hard days, sometimes my prayer was, thankful I have an apartment, like thankful I'm not homeless, thankful for this really soft blanket I'm laying down with, thankful for this new song I discovered that I'm like, it really hits the moment and it makes me feel good and I like it. Like so random, and some could say stupid, but you know what? There's a lot of blessings in your life. And I think when we breeze over them and only do a highlight reel of the worst catastrophic things that have happened, no duh, mentally, you're going to be down in the dumps. So finding things you're grateful for is huge. Next, finding your people. I think accountability is so important in a mental health struggle. But the hard part is, and I've experienced this firsthand, it's really hard to find people that get you. It's really hard for people to understand what you're truly, truly experiencing. Like I've had very, very, very well like intended people say to me, just like stop being a Debbie Downer and just like get over it. Literally the worst thing you could say to somebody, get over it, even though I know the struggle to help people is really hard, but I also think we can think of people that genuinely love and care for us, that maybe they understand your struggle a little bit more intimately, or you really trust them, that they can be your go-to person, or maybe you can like shed a light of, hey, I've been struggling this week. Would you mind if we went for a walk? Like I want to make sure I go for this walk, and I know I'm going to need somebody to kind of push me. Like, can you do that for me? Or when you are having a really hard time and you need some good advice, saying like, hey, I would really love to grab coffee with you and just catch up, and just having time of community and being with people you love and people you trust is really important, because I think depression and mental health, it's really good at shaming and isolating us and making us think, wow, like you're so broken, like they don't get you. Nobody understands what you're going through, and nobody has empathy or compassion for what you're going through. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. When you love somebody, if they're hurting, you're hurting. And speaking on both sides of the one people have come to and loved and cared for during those low times, and being, eventually being someone who does that for other people, I will never not take a text or a phone call or a coffee date from my friends who are struggling with their mental health, And so I think we need to be kinder to ourselves, and we also need to understand that people love us probably more than we give them credit for. And so time with community and with friendship, like cutting out time, get out of bed, stop only being by yourself, not talking to anybody, keeping your head down. That's not what God created us for. God created us for relationship with Him, but also with each other. And, a lot of times when I have been able to grow in friendship with people, and I do open up and am intimate about my mental health, there's a lot of people that understand more than we realize, or that love you so much that they want to understand. So being merciful and understanding to your people, but also being honest with your people and asking for more opportunities to grow in relationship, but also to help get out of that slump is huge. Those people, if they know that this is something you're struggling with, they're gonna help. And I just think isolating ourselves is exactly what the enemy wants us to do. And so finding opportunities to hang out is huge. And also just fun. We need fun, okay? Lastly is serving others. Now I know what you're thinking. Girl, I ain't Mother Teresa. I struggle right now, and if I'm struggling with myself and if I'm a hot mess express, who would want me helping them? I think for myself, my experience, when I am truly in a season of depression, or my biggest problem is the spiraling self-talk, because when you struggle with depression, you're very fixated on the negative thoughts, the negative feelings you're having about yourself. I'm so pathetic. I can't even get out of bed. Nobody even likes me. What's the point of living? I don't get it. Like, I have no purpose in life. Nobody loves me. Nobody wants me. I mean, just that terrible negative talk. When you focus on yourself too much, it could be the opposite of like pride, where like you're amazing, top of the world, nobody can touch you. But also the other threshold of like, nobody loves me. What's the point of living? Both sides are crazy unhealthy. But we need to get out of that bubble of me, because it can just be so self-destructive. That finding ways or reasons or possibilities to help other people, when you focus not on you, it almost is a relief, and it can really help alleviate that hyperfixation on yourself. And you also feel proactive, you feel productive, you feel like you're a part of a solution when, for weeks you've been thinking that you're the problem. I think it's just really huge and important. I have a baby sister, and there's a lot of times where I am in a funk or something where my mom will ask me to babysit her, ask me to take her to the gym or something, and just hanging out with a cute, spunky little 8-year-old or whatever, it'll get you out of the funk. And all of a sudden you're driving down the road and you're scream singing Taylor Swift together, And I'm helping my family out. I'm serving my family. I'm spending bonding time with my little sis, but I'm doing something, and I'm doing something for others. And so there's this usefulness piece of it that is really healing. And then there's also this, I'm not constantly just thinking about me and how bad it is right now. So I do think service is a really beautiful and great way to kind of pull me out of that funk too. Now for the faith stuff. These are some prayer practices I found, and these I've especially added into my journey later on in life, once I totally bought into the Jesus thing. And I feel like once I invited Jesus into my suffering, boom, miles of progress compared to just kind of those practical lists I gave you. They totally help, but there's just something different when you bring Jesus into it. So here are some of the things that I did that really, really impacted me. First is prayer. And I think a lot of people are eye roll, and they're like, when I'm depressed, the last thing I want to do is pray, Lexi. So but when I say prayer, I basically mean don't give up on it and don't write it off. And even when you feel nothing, you need to keep going. You have to. No buts, no excuses. There's nothing good enough. Don't do it. I'm saying that through experience, okay? It's like in the olden days when they didn't have text, you would like call up your bestie, and if she didn't answer, you would call again and call again. And you might think, oh, she's ignoring me, she's not answering, when really the power was out at your house and she was waiting by the phone the whole time. Weird analogy. But all I'm saying though is God works in mysterious ways and times and places. He is ever present. He is always loving you, and he's always with you. It's us that get in the way, and that cloud, that like feeling and concept of, is he really here? It's us. It's not him. He can't do no wrong, people. There's in this relationship, there's only one imperfect person. It's me. So yeah, don't give up. You can't give up. You just can't. You have to be consistent with it. It's like when you go to the gym for the first time. If you do 10 crunches at the gym day one and then leave, you're not going to have a six-pack. I still don't have a six-pack. Stupid. But either way, you have to put in the time and the effort in any relationship, and same with God. And so even though you're feeling hopeless, you have to find hope in Christ. You have to trust him in your future and have faith in his plan for your future. And so continuing to communicate and invite him in is important. And so that is prayer. Now for me, in those low moments when I really can't feel Christ and I am praying, I need something to do, or I am dying of boredom, thinking of the groceries I need to get and the jobs I need to do. And what am I doing this weekend? I'm going to spiral and not focus. And so prayer journaling is insane for me. I love it. And I just talk to God like I'm catching up with a bestie. I'm like, dear God, today was crazy, and I just like go off. And I've gotten prettier and better and more poetic, but it ain't nothing like the saints. It's pretty comical when you look at my prayer journals. But for me, just tangibly doing something and writing it down and then looking over it and reflecting over it and really like, yeah, that problem right there has really been a struggle for me, Jesus. Like, can you really help me in this? And then sitting in that and letting him love on me and listening for him, trying to get out of my own way, is really, really, really beneficial. And it's where I've found the most growth in my prayer journey. So I love prayer journaling. If you've never done it before, I really think you should try it out, because it's awesome. And so I would say a prayer journal has been great. There's some really beautiful written prayers if you feel like you don't have the words to say something. The litany of trust is amazing. I also found the litany of surrender, where you like give everything to God. So beautifully written. And maybe that's like your daily prayer. Maybe every day you start your day, or maybe you end your day saying that litany, and just whatever you're going through in this phase, you're giving it to Christ. The rosary is also beautiful. I know a lot of times Catholics are like, yeah, it's 50 Hail Marys, dude. Like, it's a lot. We get it. You love Mary. But, and I know a lot of, like, what was it? I had a non-Catholic friend. She was complimenting me on my rosary. She's like, these little beads are so pretty. Like, they're just so cute. And she's like, what do you do with it? And I was explaining it to her, and you could go on a tangent about the rosary, but I believe the Catholic faith and our church has instilled the tradition of prayer, especially like scripted prayer, as kind of a way of comfort for us. Like, if you think of a mom with a baby, there's a lot of moms that have like go-to like lullabies, right? Or like there's that song that they always sing and then they calm down. Okay, my tangent. My little sister G, oh my goodness, she had a phase of screaming when she was a newborn. Maybe she was colicky. I don't know. It sucked. But the hairdryer and Let It Go Frozen were the only things that seemed to zip her lid when she was just freaking out. She just loved it, and it was very soothing to her. So our hairdryer and Let It Go is also a Hail Mary. I've been in times of crisis and emergency, and I don't even know what to do next or what to think, and I just start rattling off Hail Marys. It is just very calming, comforting, familiar. It's just kind of a beautiful meditative prayer where it is so repetitive, but it's also where you kind of find that groove and find that peace and reflect on Jesus's life, and you're not thinking and whining and complaining about your own. And there is just such like a rhythm in it. It's really beautiful and soothing. And like that could be something good to do like on a prayer walk maybe, but I don't know. I think we downplay the rosary, but it's like a secret weapon. We'll talk later more about the rosary, but that is just a really cool repetitive way of doing it. When it comes to scripture, I do love reading scripture. I think we forget the Psalms are almost like peeking into somebody else's prayer journal. And, it is said that David wrote a lot of the Psalms. Way to go, King David. If you look at the boy's life, he did a good job, but boy was also not well either. I mean, the whole Bathsheba, cheating, murder. He fell off the bandwagon a couple of times, so he ain't perfect either. But I love, especially the prayers of lament, or the Psalms of lament, and there's specific numbers you can look up, where there are days and times where he is, praising and rejoicing in God and all the blessings he's giving. But the prayers of lament, David just so poetically and beautifully cries out to God for how much he needs him and desires him. And he's in some really dark and hard moments. And those just really resonated with me because, number one, I'm not the only person that's dealt with this before. King David, literally lineage of Jesus, struggled with this. But number two, God was so good to David and blessed David that there's hope that he will also bless me, even if this time of struggle and hardship. So yeah, if you've never looked up specifically the Psalms of Lament, David crying out to God, I think that might be a really cool place to start your prayer when you're struggling. I also think adoration is really good, just sitting in the presence of God. Just like you need community and quality time with friends, you need community and quality time with Christ. I think adoration can also just be really soothing because I remember the beginning when I was really struggling, I could only make maybe 5 minutes, maybe. And there was no judgment, no pressure, and I did it. And each day got a little longer, a little better, and a little deeper. And just letting him look at you. There were some days where I literally just was crying. My brain was just erased, just slated, and I just needed him to look at me. Have you ever heard, I keep going on tangents, but I mean, there's been days where I'm struggling and I'm not doing well. I'm a mama's girl, and I just need my mom to sit with me and just hold my hand. And so I think adoration is just that time to let Christ hold your hand. There's no agenda, just shut up and be. That's probably the hardest thing for me to do, to shut up and just be still. Let him do his thing. And his thing's just loving you where you're at in life, good, bad, ugly. He just let him love you. And then this brings me to sacraments. I think sacraments are huge. I think daily mass can be really healing and impactful. And another beautiful part of the mass that kind of reminds me of the rosary is there is that soothing, rhythmic, familiar prayer tradition, stages and phases of the mass. You get scripture, you get a message, you're in community. I mean, mass and the church and coming together like that is truly a hospital. I mean, it's where we come to heal. It's where we come to rejoice. And it's where we come to be the closest we can physically be to Christ and receive him in the Eucharist. But most importantly, I think that the ultimate sacrament when you're struggling with depression, the ultimate sacrament is the sacrament of confession. It literally oozes mercy and love and forgiveness and healing. Because I think depression, all we desire is healing. We want this to be done. We want light in our darkness. And that's exactly what confession is for. I used to hate confession. Now it's definitely my top 7 favorite sacraments. That's a joke. Either way, I cannot emphasize that enough. And then I also will say, I know this sounds silly and small, but I really do think there is such a huge part of what are you consuming when it comes to content. I think, reaching out or looking for more positive, podcasts, more appropriate music. Christian music has been so healing for me as well. And I mean, I remember there were times when I was really dark and sad and depressed, and I kept listening to depressing music. Think of what music does. Music makes you feel things. So if you're sad and in the dumps and you're listening to more sad music, I totally get a good ballad and a good heartbreak song. Don't get me wrong. But if I am chronically struggling with this, why am I putting it on a loop? Okay? So I think, and you know what? There are even really good sad songs that are Christian where at least there's a happily ever after. Whereas when you listen to just what's on the radio depressing music, it's and I'm gonna die alone. And then it just stops and you're just yeah, I'm gonna die alone. We don't need that. But even when it is there are some really beautiful, sad Christian songs where it's I don't know what's going on, Jesus, but you got me. I do think what we listen to in our AirPods really does affect us and matter. And I think it can be so huge and so important. The last thing I want to stress and emphasize that has been really healing and beautiful for me is something called spiritual direction. Some people know what this is, some people do not know what this is, so I'm going to play like you don't know. Spiritual direction is when you have, usually it's a religious, or it is somebody older than you with more experience than you, further along in the faith journey than you, who helps you through your walk of life. And some people are like, oh, it's exactly like therapy. Not exactly like therapy, very like similar. I would say it's like the Catholic cousin of therapy. You have to understand their emphasis is a little bit different. Like therapy, it's like a medical professional and it's more like psychological. Whereas like spiritual direction, it's more spiritual and it's more about your faith and your Catholic journey. I recommend both. But with spiritual direction, you know, when I am struggling in darkness and times of despair and times where I am depressed and I don't feel God, having someone encourage me and hear me and give me advice, and honestly, some of these coping skills came from, you know, my therapist or my spiritual director that really healed me and helped me. And it's like, you know, how people get like life coaches. Why don't we have a life coach for our soul? Kind of cuckoo that we haven't done that yet. But they also can be a huge part of your healing journey as well. I will say I don't think a spiritual director can sub out a therapist, and I don't think a therapist can sub out a spiritual director. So please understand there is a big emphasis and difference. But I think both are so important, and I wonder what our world would be like if each person had both. I do want to end on telling you a little bit about my own journey with spiritual direction. There's a wonderful priest, and I'm pretty sure he has spiritually directed like 80% of my family. It's kind of funny. But it's because like one of us found so much healing and joy and just felt so close to God because of his help that we kept recommending him to each other. And it's like, well, if he's good for him, he's good for me, you know? And I've always like been like out of state or out of town from where he is. So it's just like these phone calls we have. I recommend if you can do it in person. Like there were a couple times we were able to meet in person and it's just easier and he could see my face and call my bluff when I'm being stupid. But anyways, there was a time where I was really invested in my spiritual life. I was like really diving in. I've had some really beautiful epiphanies and like God moments. And I was just like really locked in on Christ and doing so well. And I'm like, I got this thing figured out. I'm a genius. Such an idiot. I was like 22. Oh my goodness. It's kind of funny to laugh and think how confident I was. So stupid. Either way. And I just got hit with a low blow. And I don't know if I was struggling necessarily with depression, but I was struggling with desolation. And I didn't know what that was. And desolation is when you feel nothing from God. Almost like God abandoned you, which is like literally the biggest lie in the world and the ugliest feeling in the world too. And I think a lot of times people are living their life just abandoning the God concept completely and just figuring it out all on their own. But speaking from a person who has been stupid enough to do that, when you do have that first real encounter with God, it's intoxicating and it's this Jesus high and it's like euphoric and you just can't get enough of it. That then when somebody pulls the plug and you're in desolation, oh my gosh, it was devastating. I've had like 93 hard times in my life, probably gonna hit a hundo by the end of the week. But either way, this is me being dramatic. This was probably at least my top 5. This was my first encounter of like, I believed in God, I knew God was real, I felt loved by God, and then nothing. And I'm like, I'm losing my mind. I'm going crazy. What the hell's going on? Like I freaked out and I texted my spiritual director and I'm like, I need you. If you're available, let me know. And he was so great. And I feel so bad for him because I think dealing with me, dude, he's getting brownie points from the big guy for dealing with me. But anyways, I was just crying and I told him and I'm like, if I don't feel God and if God doesn't love me and he left me, then like, what's the point? And you know, I must not be doing what God wants me to do. So like, why do I exist? Like I was just spiraling. I would call it a depressive episode. It was crazy. More like a manic episode. And he finally got me to shut up and he finally got me to like slow my breathing. Like I was a mess. Slow my breathing down. He said, Lexi, you are not the only one who has ever felt this way. And he said this quote that like, if I got a tattoo, which my mom would write me out the will, so I won't, it would be up there. He said, there is never a cross without a resurrection. There is never a cross without a resurrection. And so right now you're hurting. Obviously you're hurting. but you need to keep bringing it to him, and you need to keep asking him to help you, and you need to keep inviting him to help you carry this, because with God, there will always be good out of it, right? Like, think of the cross itself. We didn't know this Jesus guy, and we just see this guy randomly get murdered for a crime he didn't commit, tormented, mocked, hung on a tree, dead. Like, what was that for? Think of the apostles just spiraling. And then 3 days later, when he does it because he loves us, and it's probably the most beautiful sacrifice, most beautiful act of love you could ever even imagine, the resurrection, it all makes sense. And so he was calming me down, but also reminding me who my God is. And it was beautiful. And it actually led me to my favorite Bible verse, which is Romans 8:18, which goes on the same theme. It says, the suffering of this present time is not worth comparing to the glory that is to come. And that's why it's my life mantra, is because I've just struggled with mental health and depression and sad and dark times. That's just like a scriptural reference to it. And, even having like mottos to go to when you don't understand something and you're really struggling, like I'll say that verse to myself. I'll say, there's never a cross without a resurrection. Or our family motto is one day at a time, one moment at a time, Jesus, I trust in you. Because sometimes it's like day to day, like, one day at a time, like we can get through this. But then like, I remember my mom was sharing with me, she's like, Lexi, there were times I don't think I could have made it to the next minute. So that's why they broke it down to one moment at a time. Because I think we forget until things get really hard and bad how much we truly, truly need Christ. And then, Jesus, I trust in you. That's kind of my family slogan. Another beautiful one that I love that has been really popular with Hallow is, oh, Jesus, I surrender myself to you. Take care of everything. I mean, think of saying just those little lines when you are feeling lost, or when you can't catch your breath and you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Jesus, I trust in you, or something like that. I just think that is so huge and so important. And one of my like MVPs lately, I just read his book, and he's just like the mic drop king, is Fulton Sheen. I need to like call the Pope and tell him to get on his canonization. I love this guy. He says so many good one-liners. I just happened upon this quote recently, and I was like, that is so perfect for what I want to talk about. The quote goes, pain without Christ is suffering, but pain with Christ is sacrifice. If you think of this hard time and this struggle you're having, if it's just you and the darkness, or you and the pain, pretty bleak, pretty depressing. No hope in sight, because if you just relied on yourself, you got yourself in this mess, right? You're the one who's struggling with your mental health. So why would you rely on yourself to be the one who can fix it? Like, you're not that great. You're not that powerful, okay? And also, there's just like no meaning that's gonna come from it. And so then you just think of like, what's the point? Now what? But when you invite Christ in, and when you like lay it down to him and say, God, this is big, this is hard, and I don't know what the next step is, but can you just be with me right now? Can you just help me get to the next moment, the next step? Can you bring good from this? Then it becomes a sacrifice. We call what Christ did on the cross a sacrifice. And the most beautiful kind of love is sacrificial love. Another thing we can do is when we are struggling or having low or hard days, offering it up for somebody else who has it a little bit tougher than you, or offering it up for those who don't have God in their life, or even just offering up like, Lord, I don't know who needs it, but I know you do. Help whoever needs help with my struggle, and help me make the next right choice to get out of this. It can be pretty cool how God works with your cross. There have been a lot of times where I was ready to chuck that cross off a cliff and say, forget it, I quit, it's too hard, and give up. Life has just been so beautiful and unraveled in such unpredictable ways that the resurrection is so beautiful, and the blessings that come from those hardships are so mind-blowing. I would have taken 10 more crosses if it meant I got that resurrection moment. If you're struggling with the cross of mental health, I see you, and I'm sorry, and it's hard, and I know I don't fully understand it, and I don't fully understand how it hits you and how it hurts you, but I want you to know that Christ sees you, and this cross doesn't make you any less desired or loved by him, and any less loved or desired by your family and friends, because you are good, you were made good, and you are loved. You're worth dying for. I hope you find comfort in me sharing some of the things that have helped me. Maybe you've heard some things that you never tried before, like, it doesn't hurt to try them, you might find your own thing or make your own list of stuff that's healed you. I think this cross is a lot more common than we realize, and I think there's a lot of people suffering in silence that maybe we can shed light to each other, pray for each other, and help each other. and show each other how worthwhile it is when we invite Christ into this. You're never, 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 never too far gone, too much of a lost cause. And so I just really push you to embrace your journey right now, even though it's really hard, and to carry your cross and to run back to Christ with it, because he's gonna do something amazing with it. And so if you heard something that you thought was helpful, please feel free to share it with a friend. If you happened upon this and you don't know why I'm rambling, thanks for staying. But if you could please pray that this message and this podcast continues to do what God wills for it, I'd really appreciate it. And most importantly, never forget to ponder the purpose, embrace the journey, and live the conversion. Thank you.